Hello and welcome to the Hypnosis Academy. Today I'm talking about timelines and the implications of timelines and how they can work for us and how they can work against us. I'll tell you all about it on the other side. Just to remind you, this Saturday and Sunday, the 1st and the 2nd of April, we are running an Ego Ascension course. It's free. It's only a donation only. You don't need to be a therapist to come and join it. If you want to join us, feel free. We've got about 32 people at the moment, but the more the merrier. And if you're interested, send me an email and I'll send you the details. So what about timelines? Well, I am aware of 3 different kinds of work that you can do with timelines, but I'm sure there are a lot more. However, let me tell you about the ones that I've used. So there's one which is timeline therapy, it's called. And that is where you can fix issues. And it's kind of like in semi-hypnosis, and you float above a timeline, you go back and you go before the problem and the problem resolves itself, and it's very, very interesting. Yeah, that one was promoted and developed by Tad James. That is very valuable, and I've used that and I've had some incredible results with timeline therapy. Then there's another timeline therapy which is a walkie one, which is virtually the same as Tad James, except that you do it physically. If you're physically present with the client, you create a line of time and then you start walking up and down on it. Now, I've done this, and let me tell you that it is very powerful. The anchors that are created on that timeline, so you can go back. I remember going back to basically, you imagine a timeline, the present, the future, the past, and somebody will say to you, so where was this event that happened? And you go, well, it's about there. Okay. And so starting from the present moment, they get you to walk back to that moment, right? So when I first did that, I remember at the time I was trying to get over unrequited love, right? But it was like a mad, from years before, it was like this niggling thing that was going on in my head, like a relationship that ended badly and I didn't want it to end, and it took me ages to get over it. I mean, I was really obsessed by this person. I was over it, or so I thought, but I thought, well, I'd like to go back and clean up any of the debris that was left. So, I thought, yeah, well, we'll just go back and then I'll just be pretending in my mind, inventing it. Well, I walked back down the line and I stood on the spot where my mind said that's where it happened. The emotion was so strong when I got there that I jumped off the line and I was in tears. That's how strong it was. It was incredible. How does that work? Well, it's a perception thing. It's your mind. Your mind works in a linear way, putting things in time. And where you've been wounded, there are places that carry, it's like you leave behind all of that emotion. And that kind of timeline therapy is beautiful. So, I went back with a brush and I brushed all of that off. And then I stood back on it and it was much better. Yeah. So, and that's a metaphor. The mind loves metaphors. So that made me think, hang on a minute, there's something to this. This isn't just pretendy stuff. This is real stuff. I really felt the emotion so strongly that made me jump off the line and cry. The timeline therapy, the Tad James one, where you float, that is one of the times that I had a severe abreaction in my client. And I was just saying, float back to this point where the problem started. She got back and she screamed and started crying and she had a panic attack and everything. And I was just at the beginning of my therapies and I nearly crapped myself. But what it made me realize was there's something to this. This isn't messing around stuff. This is serious stuff. The other timeline therapy that I use is when, and I do this when I feel that the person doesn't have a good organization of the time. Like they're not getting things done. It's a mess. They can't make plans. Yeah. They're focused on the past all of the time. That's all they talk about is the past. So what I do is this. I get them to show me where their timeline is. So typically what happens is this. When we talk about the future, people say, well, that's, and they'll show you with the hand, well, that's tomorrow. So I'll say to them, show me where tomorrow is on your timeline. Imagine you've got a timeline. Where's tomorrow? And they go, well, tomorrow's here. Well, where's next week? Well, next week's there. What about next month? Well, next month's there. What about next year? Next year's there. So you'll see that they'll actually take you through a timeline. Now, a really good timeline is the one that I've just shown you, which is it's within your visual field. This is a future timeline. And if you notice what was happening was I was going uphill. So a very handy, good timeline, but not for everybody, is one that goes uphill. Why? Because each event you can see. So it's very good for making long-term plans. You can see, a year ahead, yeah, I know what I'm going to be doing. 10 years ahead, yeah, I know what I'm going to be doing. Even more beautiful is if the events that you've got planned have little lights on them, like little flashes, and you go, oh yeah, 10 years time, oh, it's going to be beautiful. All right, so that's a good timeline. Typically what happens is, people have the now here, just in front of them. Yeah, so you go, yeah, the future. Where's now? Well, now's here. Okay, some people have them on the inside. Some people have the now on the inside. And that's good. That's living in the now. Yeah, and it's an interesting one. If your now's here, take it, push it inside, and see how it feels to be now. To be living in the now. Very interesting. But hey, don't leave it there if you're not happy. Take it back out again if you think, oh, that's a bit too, I'm the Buddha now. And then when you talk about people and you say, well, where's yesterday? And they go, well, yesterday. And what about last week? Well, last week. What about last year? Well, last year. What about 10 years ago? Well, and so what they do is they'll show you the past going like this. Yeah, very typical. What are the benefits of that? Well, it's good because we need to review the past, don't we? It's good to have the recent past visible, so you don't have to look back. Yeah, but then it goes over your shoulder, and then that's why we say I'm looking back on my life. Literally, I mean, these are all metaphors, but these are all very true metaphors. Looking back on my life. So that what I've shown you is probably a very handy timeline. Going uphill, all of your bits and pieces on there, all show your plans. You've got your now in front of you, and then you've got your past. You can still see a bit of the past, and then off it goes into the past. That's the ideal, but let me tell you, that's not what many people have. Some people have an absolute mess. An absolute mess. For example, I have had people, so I say, where's now? Okay, and they say, now's here, behind them. Okay, behind them. And I might say, any of these, unless there's a specific reason why they want to put now behind them. Yeah, but it's kind of like, if we're supposed to be living in the now, you've got to be able to see it. It's got to be tangible for you. If it's like now's in the past, where are you? Where are you living? Also, people often have the future messed up. Sometimes the future goes round them, and next year's behind them, and it goes downhill and they can't see it. Or tomorrow is so big. These are people who are stressed, by the way. Tomorrow is so big as a representation that they can't see anything past tomorrow. Talk about living for tomorrow. people who live for tomorrow. Their image, all they've got is tomorrow. Yeah. If it goes downhill, you can't see it. You don't know I don't know. And when you talk to people, they give you metaphors that describe it. And they'll say, I just can't see it. I can't see any future. Those people, when they say that, you should be thinking, I want to find out what they're doing with the timeline. So where is tomorrow? And you might find that they do this and go, well, tomorrow is behind me. And, the future's behind me. That's why they can't see it. When people say things that sound like metaphors, take it literally, because sometimes what they're doing is a literal representation within themselves. Yeah. And once you start bringing this to people's attention, you can change the timelines. If it's not a good timeline, like they can't see the future, and if the past is here, then that's no good either. That's not what the past is designed to do, is to be here. So people living in the past, you might find that they've just got one scene of the past that they just keep running over and over again. Yeah. So that's definitely a skill that I would say to have in your toolbox, is to be able to elicit people's timeline and then help them to rearrange it. And really you can get them to try something out and say, how does it feel? We're not going to leave it like that unless you're certain. Yeah. And so people can try and go, yeah, that feels really good. Yeah. Or, no, there's just something, well, what needs to change? Well, I think I need to, that's fine. But you want them to see the future. You want the past behind them as where it should be. Yeah. And have the present here, in front of them or inside of them. Even better, if they can handle it. Yeah. But yeah, definitely worth looking at. So, timeline therapy, however you choose to use it, is extremely valuable. One that I would recommend, and one that I've used a lot. Okay? I hope that helps. I love you all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.